Welcome back, Math 8. Today we are going to discuss how to solve two-step equations. The first thing I want you to do is look at this equation that we have down here, and I want you to put a circle around the term with the variable. Now think about what that means, the term with the variable. What do you think that means? Go ahead and put a circle around it now. So when I say term with the variable, I mean the whole number that the variable is touching. That means the coefficient and the variable that we're multiplying by. Okay? So I want you to keep this in mind. We're going to start calling this term right here our circle of don't touch, okay? So that we remember that that's the last thing we're going to do. So if that's the last thing we're going to do, what is the first part of the equation that we're going to work with? We're going to work with that -4 first. Okay? So I'm going to come down here a little bit. We're going to scroll down. Notice that it says to rewrite my equation. The reason I always rewrite my equation is so that no matter how long my work gets, I can always know where I started. So I'm going to rewrite my whole equation. (3m minus 4 equals 5). I'm going to remind myself that I'm not going to touch this 3m. Circle of don't touch. Now let's think. What inverse operation can we use to eliminate this 4 minus 5? Or this -4 equals 5. We're trying to eliminate this -4. All we want is that 3m by itself. So what inverse operation, remember we talked about those last time, what inverse operation are we going to use? In this case, the inverse operation of -4 is +4. And remember that our rules for equations, what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. So now we have 3m. We're not doing anything to that. So I'm going to just bring that straight down. -4 plus 4 equals what? 0. So if you want to, you can write a big +0 here to remind yourself that you're not doing anything. There's nothing left here. And then what is 5 plus 4? 9. Very good. All right. So moving forward some more. I'm just going to write that we used subtraction. Just to remind myself that that's what I used. Oh, but that's not right. We used addition. Now we're trying to get this variable all by itself. Notice when I bring it down, the circle of don't touch is gone. I don't redraw my circle. So now we're trying to find out how we get that variable by itself. Well, what operation does it mean when we have our coefficient, that 3, right next to our variable, that m? There's no symbol, there's no parentheses, there's nothing in between that 3 and the m. So what are we telling that m to do with the 3? we want to multiply those two together, right? We're trying to find what that m is so that we can multiply them together to get that 9. So I'm just really quickly going to rewrite my equation without this 0. 3m equals 9. So now, how do I do the inverse of multiplication? What's the inverse of multiplication? We're going to divide by 3. But what we do to one side, we have to do to the other side. Now, what is 3 divided by 3? It's 1, right? And then m, we're just left with our m. And then 9 divided by 3 is 3. Now, if you're comfortable leaving that 1 in front and it helps you remind you there's only one m, that's perfectly fine. For most people and in most cases in math, we just write that variable by itself, m equals 3. And then what do we do at the end when we're done with our solution? Put a big old circle around it so that we know that's the final solution. Okay, what I want you to do now is go ahead and take a second. Try these two problems. Try these two problems for yourself. Pause the video now and work your way through these problems to see how well you do. Don't worry if you get it right or wrong. You're just trying right now. Okay? All right, I want to show you how to do a couple of these. So the first one I want to show you is actually this one over here. So let's look at this one. Where is my variable term? Where am I going to put that circle? I'm going to put that circle around my 4/7 with that W, because that is my variable term. I now have my circle of don't touch. Okay? So now I know where I'm not going to touch first, what I'm going to do first. I'm going to rewrite the equation just because for my own brain, I need to be able to see where it's at. I need to know what I'm working with, and rewriting it helps me understand all of the components that I'm working with. I'm going to go ahead and redraw my circle just to remind myself, hey, don't want to touch that just yet. All right, now my first step, what inverse operation do I use to get the variable term alone? Well, if I look at this, I can see right now that this is a negative. So the inverse of a negative number is a positive number. So I know that I'm going to use addition again. So I know that what I do to one side, plus 5/7, I have to do to the other side, plus 5/7. A trick to help you remember what sides you have is you can always draw the line right here to remind yourself that this is very similar to a scale, and you have to keep this side of the scale the same equal weight as this side of the scale. And if we add something to the left side, we have to add something to the right side. Okay? So, now let's look at this. We have negative 5/7 plus 5/7. That eliminates down to 0. Did we do anything with our variable term? Nope. So we can just bring that whole thing down. Positive, so plus 4/7 W. Now we can look at our first side. We have -3/7 plus 5/7. When we are adding and subtracting fractions, you always have to have the same denominator. So this bottom number down here, this number has to be the same. In this case, our numbers are already the same, so it's going to be easier for us. I can just look at the top number, our numerator, and say -3 plus 5 equals what? Or 5 minus 3 equals what? So 5 minus 3 or -3 plus 5 equals 2. And our denominator stays the same. So now we have a positive 2/7 equals, make sure we draw that equal sign, 0 plus 4/7 W. I'm going to rewrite that equation without the 0 because we don't really need it. If you want to keep it there, you can. Now, how do we get rid of this 4/7? This 4/7 is attached to our W, and we really don't want it there. What does a fraction represent? A fraction represents division, and division we want to multiply to get rid of, right? But we have a fraction multiplied by our variable. So that means division. So are we dividing or are we multiplying? This is always very, very confusing. The easiest way to remember it is you're multiplying by the inverse. So we're going to multiply by the opposite of 4/7, which is just 7/4. You see how I did that? I'm going to multiply by the flipped number of my fraction on that side. But what I do to one side, I need to do to the other side. So I need to multiply this side also by 7/4. Now, when we're multiplying fractions, our denominators do not need to be the same because we multiply straight across. We just go straight across this way. Okay? So now we can say that on our variable side of the equation, we have 4 times 7, which is 28, divided by 7 times 4, which is also 28, and our variable. On the left side of our equation, we have 7 times 2, which is 14, divided by 4 times 7, which is 28. Now, if we reduce all of these fractions down, we know that 14 and 28, pretty similar numbers. You know that you can get 1/2 out of that because 14 is half of 28. And 28 divided by 28 is 1, which leaves you with 1W. And again, we can rewrite our 1W as just the variable. Okay? And our last step, as always, circle that equation. All right, now it's your turn. Go ahead and pause the video here and try these 4 problems. Really focus on what is the inverse of a square and a square root. Remember, we talked about that a lot last week. What are the inverse of squares and square roots? Go ahead and pause your video now and try these 4. Make sure you show all your work and you write out the steps that you take. Here are the solutions. How did you do? All right, I'll see you next time. Have a great day.